Hello, Susana.
Hola Camilo, buenas tardes.
¿Qué tal?
Arratsaldeon,
Es que ricasco.
bienvenido a esta serie de entrevistas y
Gracias,
gracias
gracias.
por haber aceptado. Okay, so Camilo, thank you very much for having accepted to be interviewed. This would be the third interview in a series of interviews to members of the Oñati community. The first one was to Inza Palacin, a former master student. Second one to Johannes Fest, who was a former scientific director and master's professor. And the third one to Camilo Umaña. Will be a short interview, Camilo,
Great.
25, 30 minutes. So the idea is that everybody knows a little bit more about your professional and personal socio-legal studies or career.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very nervous because this is my first time.
Okay, it's only 5 minutes and then it's
Okay.
an informal talk with me.
Good, good, good.
So the first question would be, so everybody knows a little bit more about you. Who is Camilo Umaña? How would you define yourself?
Well, Susana, it is a very hard question actually because I couldn't define myself in a shorter sentence. I think that while the time passes by, you gain different identities. I feel like a person who has different identities. So of course I'm a Colombian, and I have my roots, my family, my part of my heart here. But I lived abroad for about a third of my life. So I also have friends, family, and parts of my life which are very important abroad. I used to think that my life is about the memories that we gather. However, also when the time passes by, you realize that you experience again, you re-experience what has happened in your life. So, for instance, when something happened when you're a kid, afterwards you re-experience that thing, and perhaps what was to be sad is now a sense of opportunity, something important. So. I also used to think that my language was my identity, was my country, right? As Pessoa used to say, but talking other languages and other cultures is always beautiful and allows us to exchange with other people. So I am a big question mark for myself. But in the middle of that, of all these things, I feel like a regular person who is trying to always to find himself.
Very interesting. And what motivated you to undertake the socio-legal studies?
Well, I did my studies in law. I did the law faculty in Colombia, and but I always tend to think that legal studies are very limited in its methods, and I wanted to know more about society. The law used to be more self-referential, and I wanted to go out of the discipline to take a look of what was going on in society. So, to me, the opportunity of being in Oñati was very important because I was able to gain other abilities about sociological studies, and afterwards I did also my PhD on a social science faculty at the University of the Basque Country and also at the University of Ottawa in Canada. So it brought to me a broader view of society that I enjoy a lot.
You mentioned Oñati. So which is your connection with Oñati, the Oñati Community, the Oñati Institute?
Well, Oñati is part of my country, of my land, you could say. I've been there several times, and the first time that I went there was for doing my master's thesis. My master's, actually, I did the master's program in Oñati about 10 years ago, something like that. And afterwards, I came constantly for congresses, workshops, and other initiatives. And at the end, after all these years, I'm now a co-lecturer with Stefan Parmentier in a course of transitional justice. So I feel like it's a place where I've learned so much, and I'm so thankful about Oñati. I've made connections not only with the institute, of course, but also with the town and the people in the town. Oñati is a very little town. I was able, for instance, 10 years ago to make a little tutorial time, you could say, with students from a Castola, little ones. And after 10 years, they are now grown up, and they even came to Colombia and made part of a semester of exchange in universities here in Bogota, and I was able to be with them. So yeah, you always realize how much time has passed by since I'm part of Oñati.
So a real exchange. You met them here and then they went back.
A real exchange.
And you mentioned the PhD at the University of Basque Country and in Canada. You did about impunity. We have many interesting questions about that. José Ramón Bengoechea, former scientific director, sent us some questions about that. So I'm going to read that. He says, impunity is a symptom and a consequence of state involvement in violence and crime. How can we break the vicious circle between state crime and impunity? Can we find alternative concepts to impunity and state crime that help us re-establish the links? What would you say about that?
That is a hard question, and José Ramón was not only the former scientific director, but also my professor, my director for my master's, from my PhD thesis. So he knows my weak points. So this is why he poses these kind of questions. I think that the key issue is how to make this vicious circle turn into a virtuous circle. So trying to improve responsibility for human rights violations and grave crimes committed within an organizational setting that could be named as the state. So the main issue about this is not about getting all the people and putting them in jail. It is about how to make a more responsible society and how to prevent that these sorts of violations happen in society. So ways to break down this circle could be improving responsibility. Improving responsibility means having more accountability, better accountability also, which means that not just focusing on the retributive side of prison time and so on, but improving these things should not happen. These things the state tools should not be directed against the people. So how to prevent these things? So having a better accountability helps a lot, having a strong judicial system, of course, but also having good ethics and a healthy society where hate discourses, hate practices don't take place, where discriminatory practices are very much left aside from some social relations. So impunity poses the question of how to improve responsibility, but how to make it more intelligent and also more according to the human rights values that we cherish, about humanizing those people who are responsible, about trying to integrate them into society the most, and about, of course, repairing victims and helping society to move on, but to move on with a criteria of memory, remembering what happened, repairing what happened, giving truth for what happened, and giving solutions to society to have a broader framework of responsible use of state functions.
Oh, very interesting. And you have been involved in the peace process in Colombia. How is now the peace process right now? How would you say? Are you happy?
Not really. Well, I've been involved in different, you could say, positions around the peace process. So first of all, I went there as a part of the victims delegation. So I went to the peace talks in La Habana. I was able to see what was going on, to see how the negotiations were conducted, and to send a message directly to the people who were negotiating. Afterwards, of course, I've pushed for the implementation of the peace process, which was very difficult because, as you know, people here in Colombia voted against. Most of the people voted against the peace process. So even though it was a very tight difference and a lot of people didn't participate, well, the answer of the society was no in votations. So, but the process kept going, and it was very difficult to implement after this political issue, this political problem. So I'm convinced that a society that wants to uphold the values of human rights needs to live in peace, and the only solution is to make peace agreements and to arrange things so society can have a future. I don't think that war is an alternative for this kind of problems, social problems as Colombia has. So I was then afterwards involved in the United Nations, the Office for the Human Rights in Colombia. There I helped also for the implementation. Afterwards, I was part of the Truth Commission, where I helped for the research. So I have a view from different positions, but I have one clear image of what is important. That the peace process is important. That having peace is very important for the society. But also, I have a clear image of what is going on, which is the restatement of the armed conflict. The armed conflict still goes on in the country. We still have a lot of violence. A lot of the social issues that we were trying to deal with, well, didn't transform. Communities are still confined or in their territories, and we have a pretty difficult situation. This is more difficult even because the current government is part of the movement that was against the peace process, and now the current government has to implement the peace process. So this brings a lot of difficulties. So we are living a very difficult situation, and let's see what happens in the next few years.
So I don't see you maybe optimistic.
No, I'm not optimistic, but I think we should try. Okay. I know that every peace process brings difficulties, and the moment afterwards is very difficult. So that's what we're living, but we never know. So if we have the chance for peace, we have to take it.
Okay. So I have more questions from Jose Ramon. Here it is, another one. The transitional justice discourse is moving, but where to?
I think the transitional discourse is kind of being standardized. I remember an anecdote from Pablo de Greve, who used to be the rapporteur on transitional justice, and who said that once he went to an African country, and in the African country they said, well, we have here the Truth Commission. I said, the Truth Commission, why? And the president looked at him and said, isn't this what we are supposed to do? So he was like, no, there is nothing that you are supposed to do. You are supposed to do things that are really complementary, or really take the logic of the society or the social issues that you are dealing with. So I think the solutions are becoming more and more standardized, and that is problematic in the sense that you cannot learn from experiences from other countries if you are going to implement them without any consciousness of the singularity of your context. And also, I think that the transitional justice mechanisms are influencing a lot you could say, the ordinary justice mechanisms. Sometimes it is very, very important and very positive because it brings about other discourses, such as more collective sort of view of the responsibilities, repairing victims, this victim-centric kind of view, which is very important. But sometimes also it brings a lot of issues around how to make more flexible the criminal law, how to improve ordinary mechanisms, how much money, how many resources are going to be invested in justice, in transitional justice process. So these are always hard questions to make. I also know that very much from, for instance, the Basque Country, where I used to also did a little research with Jose Ramon, and take the step forward for this kind of process is very, very difficult. So this is what we are living, I think.
Yeah, we learned so much, Camilo, talking with you about transitional justice.
I've learned more talking about you, talking with you about the transitional justice process in the Basque Country and
the Basque Country.
Spain.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's
very
good to compare a little bit. But we want to know a little bit more about your personal aspects. So I would like to know which is your daily life now during the lockdown, and also which are your hobbies. Or is only transitional justice process?
Well, actually, we are in a lockdown here in Colombia for about almost more than 2 months now, and confinement is very good for part of your intellectual production. So I've been writing a lot and reading a lot, which is very positive in that sense. But you always need to move, to have your freedom of movement is very important. And
are you allowed to go out, or you need to be confined at home?
We are allowed to do things that are just necessary, and we are flexibilizing more and more. But I prefer not to go out because I think the virus is a very serious thing, and but also, well, the ordinary life has changed a lot. So we have moved to virtualized process in the universities. We give lessons through Zoom and other platforms. So it is very difficult and different to teach in this situation, and also I get out with my friends through Zoom, which is very different. So,
and in your former normal life, normal in brackets, do you have hobbies? How was your daily life?
I don't remember because I think
2 months ago.
2 months ago. These months have been very intense, but of course, I have hobbies. I like to eat very much, so this is why I like to go to the Basque Country. I love to go to Basque Country because I eat so good. Go out with friends and the cinema. Now I only use Netflix and of course doing sports, and this is very much limited now. So life has changed in very few time a lot, but I'm very thankful because actually I'm very comfortable. I think part of the society, all of us are going to feel very strong consequences from this situation. And I'm doing very good, so I'm very thankful actually.
I'm glad to hear that. And now, Camilo, at the Institute, we are in the process of selecting new candidates and people who are coming for the next master's program. Which would be your advice or your suggestion for those who are coming, just before coming, or also when they stay here in Oñati? Any advice, any suggestion?
Well, Oñati is a very little town, but the Institute has very strong sources of knowledge, so as the library and so on. those things I think the students are going to hear about. So about the library, about the opportunities with exchanging with the professors. I think something that they usually don't say is about taking all the opportunities of exchanging with scholars. So a lot of visiting scholars come to the residence and to the institute. And I think that sometimes those people are a part of the program and we don't exchange that much. So I think those people, if students can have the opportunity to integrate them into the activities and to exchange them with them also from their experiences is very, very useful. And also I think, well, the culture. The Basque culture is not explicit in the sense that it's not a very open society. People are not going to be friends with you at the first time, but there are many cultural things within the Oñati community, but also in the Basque country that are very interesting and very singular, that don't happen anywhere in the world, maybe as the cuadrillas or these sort of social interactions, which are very interesting. And of course, eat a lot, drink well, and have fun.
Study a lot, read a lot.
That also, but
no, but it's good advice.
I give the good advices. I give the good advice.
Yeah. So it was so short, Camilo. Here we are. And anything else that you want to add about your stay in Oñati, your connection, your life in general?
No, I would like to express my gratitude to the Oñati community and to the institute, because I really think it is a very particular place, a place that I hold in my heart, which is where I've learned so much. And I think this experience of being able to exchange with you and talking to you, I feel very much like in Oñati again.
I think it's also good that the other members of the Oñati community know you a little bit more, and not only with a name.
Of course, know more about people, and also because what is great about Oñati is that you don't make like just a professional network, if that exists. It's more a personal friendship, a personal relation. So that is what is the best for me in Oñati, because I'm very bad at networking and professional. Those kind of things are very bad, but I really enjoy to get to know people and to be close to people and to know their histories and to have friends from Oñati. I actually can say that I have friends from Oñati also, because it's a very, very intense experience of being able to live with someone that you study also with and that you cook with, and so it is very, very, very nice that. So no, Scary Casco, and I hope we can you keep going with this initiative, which is very interesting. I'm always going to be taking a look of the different videos, and thank you to everyone in the institute, and I hope everyone is doing fine with this craziness of the crisis.
And I wanted to add, when you have mentioned the link with the people, the personal network, I think it's a good thing to have the connection between the personal and professional connection. While you are eating something in a gastronomic bar, you are talking about transitional justice, you are having a drink. So I think this would be this connection, this video. So we are talking about you, personal life, but also academic life. So thank you very much, Camilo Casco.
Thank you, Susana.
It has been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
And we will see each other soon. Take care.
Take care.
Bye,
Take care.
Camilo.
Un abrazo.
Bye.
Bye. Scary Casco. Agur.
Agur.